Thank you, Tom. I'm going to take a slightly different approach to Philip and look at a regional perspective on the feed-in tariff. So my title is Give Me Energy, Making Feed-in Tariffs Work for Your Business, What's Going On in the Southwest. Firstly, the Southwest is a big place. It starts in Gloucester and Swindon and goes down towards Penzance. So we're talking about quite a large region of the country. Before I start, just a quick précis of what Regen Southwest is. We're established in 2003 as the Sustainable Energy Agency for the Southwest of England. We're core-funded by the Southwest RDA. We're a regional level strategic organisation, and our mission is to speed up the transition to a low carbon economy and accelerate the region's renewable energy resources, and in doing so unlock sustainable business opportunities for the renewable and sustainable energy businesses that reside in the Southwest. Our aims are to increase the number of megawatts deployed and create jobs in the region, essentially. So how does the Southwest look in terms of its resources? Because when we think about installing renewable energy technology, we need to check out what resources we've got. Well, there's a map of the whole of Europe looking at wind resource, and we can see that the west of the UK in general is pretty well endowed with wind resource. The other renewable electricity resource that's relevant is the solar resource, and that's a map of solar irradiation across the country, and you can see that the southwest of England has the highest solar resource in the country. So for both these resources, the region is well placed. The region has also set itself targets for renewable energy. And this graph here shows the plan that we came out with in 2006 in a project called Revision 2020, where we set ourselves nearly 500 megawatts of renewable electricity in 2010 and 850 odd megawatts by 2020. You can see that the red slice of this graph, the micro renewables section, is quite a small wedge, which has about 4 megawatts capacity in 2010 and 50 in 2020. We also monitor how we're doing so far. So compared to that, what's our performance like? Yeah, we're a bit short of target at the moment, bearing in mind we're 1 year short of 2010. And you can see here the micro, the red slot. I can't really see it on my screen. Perhaps we can just see it on the big screen. So there's a lot to go. And that really doesn't account for what Philip mentioned in terms of national renewable energy policies, where we're aiming for 15% of our energy from renewables. In 2008, Regen Southwest produced a report that looked at the various scenarios that we needed to get to those targets. And here's the graph from that report called The Road to 2020. And it looked at the existing renewables we had in the region, what the then current policy would achieve, this is before the renewable energy strategy, and the sorts of increases in the levels of renewable energy we needed in the southwest to hit 15 and 20%. And you can see the electricity bar at the top of that is the biggest bar. Now clearly micro-renewables and the feed-in tariff has a small role to play with things like large-scale wind, but their targets are very, very ambitious. And so I've put together another slide that puts them all in one, if you like. So here's a plot of what we've actually achieved so far with renewable electricity in the region. Those are the 2020, Revision 2020 targets, and that's the Road to 2020 target that we need to hit the 15% renewables. So that, if you like, is the rough growth trajectory we need to make from today. And of course, the feed-in tariff will play an important role and is an important new policy to start that sort of rapid exponential growth that we need to see to achieve targets. So the feed-in tariff is one driver. Philip's talked about what it is. I've got a slide here that I'm not going to dwell on at length that runs through what the feed-in tariff is. The slides will be available, I think, on the website in due course, so those that need to look at the details can refer to that. But the other driver that I really would like to talk about is the CRC energy efficiency scheme. So if we like, we have a pull from the feed-in tariff encouraging people to invest in renewables, but we also have a little bit of a stick in terms of this mandatory emissions trading scheme that uses people who use more than 6,000 megawatt hours a year of electricity will need to enlist. And if you use more than that amount of electricity in your business, you'll be paying, you'll enter this scheme, and there's a charge that's going to be levied, and you can see that at the starting rate of £12 per tonne of CO2, that's equivalent to about 0.7p for electricity and 0.2p per kilowatt hour for gas. But over time, it's likely that those CO2 prices are going to rise substantially, and a more realistic price for carbon might be, say, £100 a tonne. And you can see that that's 10 times the starting price, and that gives you a feel for where those CRC payments are going to go. So there is both an incentive to look at installing renewables, and if you don't, there's also this stick, if you like, called the CRC for those people who fall under that. For those of you who are interested in the CRC and the timeline, if you suddenly realise that you do use more than 6,000 megawatt hours a year of electricity, that's the timeline. I'm not going to dwell on it. Again, it's on the slides, and that's the sort of information you need to be looking to download. If you think you're going to be affected by the CRC Energy Efficiency Scheme, you need to understand this timetable and what it means for your business. So moving on to the drivers, and having talked about the resources and our targets in the region, what sort of initiatives do we see as a result of the feed-in tariffs happening? Well, the answer is we see initiatives at all scales. We are looking at a project at Regen Southwest called Southwest Sunroofs, where we're looking to promote really, many thousands of PV installations in short order. And we're kick-starting with looking at social housing providers installing PV on their homes at a fairly large scale. And the main aim of that is to ensure that the Southwest supply chain and businesses develop at the pace that's going to be needed to meet the demand that's coming. Again, talking about PV, we're seeing solar farm scale developments. I think Cornwall Council are looking at a 5 megawatt solar array near Newquay Airport, and they've put out an edie notice to procure this. So this is activity that's really happening, and we are aware that given the extreme southwest's excellent solar resource, that we will be a favoured area for solar parks to start happening. On a slightly smaller scale, we have what we call the rent-a-roof schemes, where we have PV developers talking to commercial property owners about roof space that they have, with the prospect of renting that, providing an income clearly to the building owner, and that will clearly be a benefit to them, but the installers will finance their PV through the feed-in tariff. And on a much smaller scale, tourism is a business in the southwest that's taking advantage of the feed-in tariff to put up schemes that do not only supplement their income by giving them the feed-in tariff, but also, if you like, enhance the credentials of their businesses. Wind. Our perception is that wind will benefit greatly from the feed-in tariff. I won't talk about it because we've got Christine on the panel, who's a wind specialist, and if any questions you have, I think she's by far the best qualified to talk about that. In terms of barriers that we see, well, the barriers are about our installers, about capacity, getting them accredited quickly enough, about upping their skills levels and training. And we're doing all sorts of work around analysis of capacity, about helping them get accredited under the MCS scheme, about making sure that skills and training is available, and making sure that the colleges in the region have the appropriate courses. So if I'm going to summarise as a region what the Southwest is doing about this big opportunity that is the feed-in tariffs, we've got a great resource, we've got RE targets that mean that we clearly know where we've got to go. We know that 15% is a great challenge. The feed-in tariff and the CRC are drivers for businesses to invest in renewables, and we're seeing projects being inspired on a wide range of scales. However, there are some barriers for our industry, and Regen Southwest is working to support the sector deliver the feed-in tariff and deliver for people who want to install renewables. Thank you very much.